Hello there, everyone. Patricia Hayes here with today's Coffee Time Career Chat. Today, we're talking about our career-related issues that come up and affect us in both personal and professional ways. And we're starting off with a new topic and theme for this series, and it's redefining Superwoman. This came to me, some weeks ago, earlier this summer, when I just realized, a lot of women are really struggling with this Superwoman mentality, particularly in the middle of this pandemic. And so I wanted to really break it down because I think it's super important to remember that Superwoman in terms of making that something that we as individuals own is a fallacy, but it doesn't mean that you can't be a superwoman, because we can be and we are, but we don't have to act like we're superheroes in that way. So that's what we're going to be talking about, and it's going to be a 5-part series I'm super excited about sharing with you all, and looking forward to getting some feedback from you as well about it, because I think I'm going to be utilizing this one for quite some time to come. So here's part 1. Part 1 of this series is entitled Superwoman is a Copycat: The Fear and Fraud Trap and the Successful Woman, because that's really what it's all about. We all know that, we say Superman, and then people's like, oh, well, why is there a Superwoman? She's just a copycat of Superman, as if that can't be a thing. We're not going to get into all the misogynistic commentary on that. However, we are going to dive into that piece about, but what is this thing about her being a copycat? Like, she's not an original. Because what that really does when you're taking on that mindset is you're really taking on now a mindset of getting this whole fearful mindset of, what if I'm not taken seriously because I'm not being recognized in my own right? And or that you're a fraud because you're not being, because you're not, quote, the real thing. You're not the original. And we're going to talk about that and bust through those things in this series here. So I've got 3 points I want to make sure I'm put out to you. The first one is that the danger in the copycat mentality is accepting others' judgment as truth. Let me say it again. The danger in the copycat mentality, so if you're buying into someone else saying, oh, that's a copycat, you're not an original, is accepting those people's judgment as truth. And not just words, not just opinions. No, I said judgment, because that's what it really boils down to, right? It's one thing to express an opinion. It's another thing to make a statement. But judgment really carries some weight to it. It has a very strong negative connotation. And it's very damning, right? Judgment in and of itself, it just has this word of weight and this is not right. You need to not do this. And why are you? So it does all of the things. It questions, it demands an answer. All of those things that judgment that comes with it. Just that word, right? It's a very weighty word. And think about it when people express that as a way of being and way of questioning whether or not what you are doing professionally, personally, as a woman, as a professional, and trying to say, well, you're not really doing anything original, so why are you doing that? And guess what? We do not have to accept other people's judgment as our reality. Bottom line, their perception, their judgment does not have to be our reality. Plain and simple. It really and truly as simple as that. It's not necessarily easy to get past that, but it is that simple. And that takes some regular work, some reflection work, some boundaries work. Trust you me, I know all about that, right? Some reflection, some boundaries, and some resetting of recognizing who you are, which we're going to get to in just a second. But just remember, you do not have to accept other people's judgment as your reality, because that's their opinion, that's their perception, and they do not necessarily define who or what you are because of how they have let some other negative thing flow into their own mindset. Okay? So that's the danger in that copycat mentality. It's just remembering that, okay? It's that you don't have to accept other people's judgment as truth, because it's not. The second thing is that fear is based in a scarcity mindset. And when it's based in a scarcity mindset, then you've got this issue that you cannot be enough to live up to those external expectations. So that's that whole thing. So if you're scared about something, there's something that you're like, oh, I'm not enough of, or whatever it may be, or it's like, what if this doesn't happen? And then what happens is that spills over to now you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to live up to those expectations of what the quote Superwoman really is, or what Superwoman really looks like. And that is problematic. Because again, what is it we're doing? We're looking at and depending on external expectations, external observations to define who we are internally and how we then respond to it. Now, is there a time and a space for when, you can take on or listen to, not take on, but listen to external things? Absolutely. There's a time and a place for that. But it is not when it comes to determining your worth, your value, what you have to offer the world, how you perform professionally, even that, right? There's things that can be taken with a grain of salt, or maybe a whole box of salt, depending on who you're talking to. But it's not to own what someone is saying. It may be to take it, reflect on it, and then take what's of value from it and move forward. All right? But that's a totally different thing than when you literally are only adjusting what it is you're doing so that you can meet the expectations of other people. That is problematic. And so that's that piece when we're talking about redefining Superwoman, which is like, you don't have to be trying to jump over tall buildings in a single bound. Like that doesn't have to be your thing. It shouldn't be any of our things. We are all doing incredible things, especially right now, daily, not weekly, not monthly, daily. And we have to give ourselves credit for that work, credit for those accomplishments every single day. All right? Just because something's not happening exactly the way that you anticipated, or that it's not coming through in the way you want it, does not mean that it's a failure. It does not mean that, oh, well, gosh, they really thought that I was going to be able to do this, and now I haven't, so that's a problem. No, it may be, hey, guess what? This is not what you're meant to do. Let's go find out what it is you're really meant to do. Take those others' expectations with a box of salt or not at all. Remember about setting some boundaries and moving forward. Okay? The third point that I want to make is that your uniqueness does not make you a fraud. In fact, it makes you different, so own it. I love this one. Because a lot of times when people cannot comprehend what it is you're doing, again, speaking from personal experience here, or they don't have the ability to understand where you're headed, then not only will they lack that understanding, but they also will withhold support because they don't understand it. That is the danger part, right? And that's where they're like, well, if you want my support, then you need to do this in a way that I can understand. Man, I just said something there. I'm going to have to come back and revisit that. Are you trying to fit who you are into a box so that someone else can understand it and then give you the support because they're holding out their support from you if they don't understand it? That is super powerful. It's very manipulative. It's very short-sighted. And it's honestly disrespectful. Because guess what? You don't have to understand. Someone does not have to understand everything that it is that you're doing in order for it to be valid. Let's say that again. Validity is not based on someone else's understanding. Period. And once we get a hold of that, it is so freeing and so powerful. And the things you can do when you stop seeking validity from someone who doesn't have understanding. Oh my gosh. Stop seeking validity from someone who doesn't understand. Okay? Oh my gosh. This is great stuff. I'm taking notes on my own things, okay? So that's the real power point of that. You are unique. You are different. Walk in the power of that. Own it. It's yours. And that's so important for us to come to realize, because when I started this series and we're talking about redefining Superwoman, it's because we have to put aside everything, most of what others have decided Superwoman looks like, how she engages, what is she doing, because it may not be relevant to you. Most of the time, it probably isn't. It's not relevant to any of us. People have built up this facade in their head based in perfectionism, based in fear, not based in reality, that's for sure. And guess what? It is so not right or fair to you or I to try to live up to that. So don't worry about being a copycat. You are an original. You are a superwoman who is an original, and you don't have to live up to others' false expectations of a superwoman who can do all things at all times and be everywhere at once, meeting all of these crazy needs, because that's not realistic. It's exhausting, it's unhealthy, and you will get to burnout quickly. I'm talking about what I know, not what I heard. Between experiencing some of that myself and watching coworkers of mine, assuming other people's perceptions, trying to live up to their expectations, as opposed to walking in the unique power of who we all are individually. So, I'm giving you permission, which you don't need, but I'm encouraging you right now to take the reflection time that you need so that you can own the power that you have. All right? The permission really comes from you. Not from me, not from your spouse, not from your coworker, not from your boss. That permission ultimately comes from you. And being able to stand up in it, recognize who you are, own the uniqueness of who you are, and then responding accordingly by taking the action that you want to take. I didn't say it's going to be easy. It may ruffle some feathers, probably will. But when you start doing that reflection, when you start setting those boundaries, and then start making sure to really become more aware of how others are trying to feed their negativity or their short-sightedness into you, then the faster you will come to recognize that, you know what, I am a superwoman in my own right. That has nothing to do with the hero mentality. We need to stop saving people. We need to stop saving other people and focus on saving ourselves. How about that? That's what we as Superwomen need to do. Start focusing on saving ourselves first rather than all these other people and living up to those unrealistic expectations. Okay, that's it. That is it for this this episode of Coffee Time Career Chat. And I look forward to following up with you and talking some more with you about this issue of redefining Superwoman in today's world. And I look forward to talking with you again next week. Let me know how things are going and what you're thinking about this. All right, take care. Bye.